guys, welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to teach you how to make Portokalopita. It's like an orange phyllo pudding cake. It's delicious. The main flavor is orange. It's going to be super orangey, as you will see when we go over the ingredients. Actually, let me take you over the ingredients so we can get started making this delicious dessert. So we have 1 package of phyllo, which is 1 pound, vanilla extract, baking powder, some orange marmalade, cinnamon, sugar, a little bit of salt. I have a very light olive oil, or you could use any flavorless vegetable oil that you have. I have a lot of orange zest. It's the zest of 2 very large oranges, some freshly squeezed orange juice, eggs, and then we're going to go over the syrup ingredients once we get to that. Before we start, I'm going to tell you that when we're working with phyllo, it comes frozen. Mostly it's sold in the freezer section of your supermarket. You want to make sure that you defrost it overnight in your refrigerator and then leave it on the counter to come to room temperature for about an hour. And as a matter of fact, this step you can totally do the night before, because unlike any other phyllo recipe that we've ever made on here, or that you'll probably ever make, in this case, in this recipe, we need the phyllo to be flaky and kind of like dry, and you want it to be broken up anyway because we're going to slice it. So if you do this overnight, it'll be perfect. If you're making it last minute and you're in a pinch for time, then you can just do it either like slice them the way we're going to do right now and leave it out for about an hour, kind of spread it out all over your counter. And I've never done this, but I've been thinking of doing it every time I wanted to make it in a hurry. You can just bake it for a little bit in your oven, because your oven is going to already be preheated anyway for this recipe. So you can bake it until it's really, really nice and dry, however long that takes. If you do it that way, let me know in the comments how it works out for you. But anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to slice this into strips. So it comes rolled up like this, and it's really, really easy to slice. You're going to do it as thin, pretty thin strips as possible, because this is going to be really the dough of the cake. So you want to just loosen them up, and if you wanted to, you can just spread them out on a clean counter. That will be fine too, until they dry up, and then they'll absorb all of the custard easier that way. So I'll set this aside and we'll begin making our syrup. Alright, so in making the syrup, you want to make sure you put your sugar and water in a saucepan with a cinnamon stick in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a vegetable peeler and just remove the outer shiny part of the skin of the orange, the peel. And do that very carefully so you don't cut yourself. Try your best to leave it in 1 or 2 long ribbons, because this is going to be used to decorate the cake once it comes out of the oven later on. So just put it straight in there, and then just take the orange and just carefully squeeze all of the juice of the orange in here. We're going to put it on the stove top and bring it to a boil, and just let it cook for about 5 minutes until the sugar is completely dissolved and the syrup thickens a little bit. Alright, so while my syrup is cooking, you want to make sure that you start off the syrup right away, because the syrup should be cold, and while the cake is hot, once it comes out of the oven, you want to pour cold syrup on it, so that way the texture of the cake is just right. If you wanted to make the syrup later, then you'd have to wait for the cake to cool down and then pour hot syrup, but it's way easier to make the syrup first. It has plenty of time to cool down while the cake cooks. Now it's time to make the custard. What I forgot to mention was we also need a cup of yogurt. I like to use a whole milk yogurt. You can use Greek yogurt or regular plain yogurt. I'm going to add to my eggs my sugar and a little bit of salt, and I'm just going to mix this until everything is incorporated and the eggs begin to look a little bit pale yellow. So once the eggs and the sugar are really well incorporated, I'm doing this in a bowl with my whisk. If you wanted to, it'll speed things up if you had a hand mixer. I just really didn't feel like dirtying one more thing. So now we're going to add the rest of the wet ingredients. I'm going to add the orange juice, the oil, and the yogurt, and I'll add some vanilla extract as well and get all of the yogurt out. Just a teaspoon. We want this cake to really, really taste like orange. So the vanilla extract is just gonna accent it. So just a little bit of vanilla extract. Mix everything up. Then we're gonna add the orange marmalade just to really amp up the orange flavor. And this is gonna be the custard. We're gonna save the zest because we're gonna add it in with the shredded phyllo, because I don't want the zest to kind of sink to the bottom. Now, we also need to add our baking powder. Mix that up really well too. And now we're gonna take the phyllo that we've cut up, and that's pretty dry at this point, and we're just gonna add a little bit at a time, folding it in with the spatula and putting in some of the zest at the same time until it's all incorporated. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything is nice and evenly incorporated, just like this. Try not to make it so that there aren't like clumps of phyllo in there. It'll bake and it'll be really nice and fluffy that way. Now, my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just gonna pour all of this custardy goodness into my baking dish, and I'm gonna bake it until it's beautiful and golden on top, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready. It's gonna take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. So here it is. You want it to be completely golden on top, and mine took an hour at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. As soon as it comes out, the best way to get the syrup to absorb completely inside it is either using a skewer, a toothpick, or a fork, and just pierce it all the way around. And then you want to take your syrup and just carefully pour it on top, and then let it sit for about an hour until all of the syrup absorbs and it cools a little bit in order to cut it easily. All right, so the Portokalopita has cooled down completely. I actually popped it in the fridge for a little while. This can be made a whole day ahead of time because it tastes really, really good cold. It just depends on how you like your, this is kind of like a bread pudding. It's like a phyllo pudding. Anyway, I saved the cinnamon stick and the orange peel from my syrup because it makes a really nice garnish on top of this. This is a really rich dessert, but the best thing about it is it makes a really large batch. You can get about 12 really good sized servings out of this. My favorite part of this Portokalopita is the edges because they get really, really caramelized and so delicious. So I'm just gonna cut a little piece for myself, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. So good. So I bake this in like an oval shaped pan, but you can use a square or a round, whatever you have. It just shouldn't be too deep because then it's gonna take longer to cook. So maybe like a pan that you would normally bake pastizzi or lasagna in, like a 9 by 13 inch pan would be perfect. Let me take this piece out. And you want to make sure to let it set, otherwise it's going to be hard to take out and serve. Now this is that type of dessert that you don't even have to pre-slice. You can just put a big serving spoon in it and people can scoop out and take however much they need. So I'm just going to put a dash of cinnamon on top of this because cinnamon and orange go fabulous. Now I forgot to mention that if you do like cardamom and orange is a really nice combination too. So you could put either a few cardamom pods in the syrup or grind up some of the seeds, maybe just like 1 or 2 cardamom pods, no more. Grind it up and put it in the pudding itself. You can take this, I'll take a smaller one. You kind of make like a little flower shape by rolling it up really easily. This tastes pretty good too. It tastes like candy orange. And put it just like that on the side. Semi-sweet, dark chocolate goes amazing with this too because this is super sweet. So like a dark chocolate shavings, or a dark chocolate ice cream, if you really want to go all out, is perfect with this. Let me take a bite. It's one of my favorite desserts. I don't eat it really often because it's super rich. But it's orange season, and this is really the most orangey tasting dessert I've ever had. It's creamy. I love the way the phyllo kind of melts in and just gives it a perfect texture. The recipe, as always, in the description box down below, takes you directly to the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Share pictures with me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.